Meeting of the Finance Committee meeting to order. I've heard several comments about it being chilly, but I think there's a lot of hot air in this room, and that won't last very long. We were on the Senate floor the other day, and our funeral home director said it was cold, and when he says it's cold, you know, but he was house trained over there. So anyway, Senator Hickman, if you could lead us in invocation here.
Yes, sir. Number 6. There you go. You already on. Let us pray. Lord God, you always find a way, Lord. You always find a way to give us time to meet, Lord, and you always find a way to get us up in the morning, and we thank you for that. Lord, we just ask you to give us the guidance and wisdom that we make the right decision in this committee and for all of Georgia. In your son's name I pray. Amen.
Amen. So we're not going exactly in the order of the file folder you have there. So actually, if you go to the last one there, House Resolution 66, and put it on my cheaters to make sure I'm looking at the number right. That is Representative Matt Gamble, who is a floor leader, who I happen to be a senator, and whose wife used to be in the House many years ago. I think I heard she was the youngest female House member at the time, and he's 25. He looks to me, so I'm not sure how this works. But how old was she?
She was 22 years old.
Okay.
Yep.
And,
Just graduated from University of Georgia, and she ran and won a primary that year in 2000.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then you've got an uncle or something he is that people might know too, don't you?
That's right, Joe Frank Harris.
So he's a political animal, it sounds like,
Well,
here, and he's a great representative for Bartow County and really takes care of the citizens over there. The bill that he has, or the resolution, I guess I should say, I'm kind of familiar with this one because I was the Senate sponsor of suspending the gas tax last year, and we gave him the ability to continue suspending it, but we have to come back and, well, I'll let you explain the process here. I don't want to take all the words up, so go ahead, Representative.
thank you, Senator, and members of the committee. It's good to be with you today. I have House Resolution 66 before you on behalf of the governor, which ratifies the executive order since May of 2022 to suspend the collection of motor fuel and diesel fuel taxes, which were pursuant to the supply chain of emergency. And following the governor and General Assembly's bipartisan efforts in last year's legislative session with House Bill 304 and the governor's ensuing executive orders that were issued monthly in consultation with leadership in the General Assembly, this resolution would simply ratify the governor's executive orders to temporarily suspend the collection of these taxes. This is a procedural step, and this action delivered much needed temporary relief to Georgians at the pump, which saved taxpayers approximately $1.6 billion and roughly $150 million to $170 million per month. Moreover, the governor's actions have kept our economy open and strong as we have all responded to the inflation and financially stressful times. So that, in essence, is what House Resolution 66 does, and I'm happy to answer any questions that y'all might have about the legislation.
And the tax, I think as he stated, the governor passed the initial period, suspended it, but he can't cancel it. So we've got two choices today: to ratify his suspension or to go back and tell everybody that those taxes that we're not going along with him. So that's the two choices for today.
That's
Senator
right.
Hickman.
This is just a procedural situation. Representative Gamble, is it typically that all executive orders are ratified or canceled? Is that typical? I don't know that.
No, and that question came up in the House. That's a good question, but for this one, as it relates to taxes, this is what we have to do in order to confirm what has already been done. And like Chairman Huffstetler said, if we were not to do this, it wouldn't be a good situation. The wholesalers would basically have to pay this tax. So that's kind of the posture that we're in at this point.
Vice Chairman Albers.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Representative Gamble, always great to see you. Isn't it true, the only reason we were able to do this is because our governor led the entire nation by opening our state back up and trusting Georgians and getting folks back to work?
That is correct. We are in a great position to be able to do this and to help our citizens here in the state of Georgia.
With that, Mr. Chairman, at the appropriate time, I'd like to make a motion to pass.
All right, and we've got a motion, we've got a second from Senator Eccles over here. And one other item, just at the time, there was a lot of people that said, we won't see this. We might get a penny from the wholesalers. I think it was a Tuesday, we passed it on Friday in my hometown of Rome. There's two big stations side by side. They're always the same price for whatever reason. One of them, it was 29 cents was the deduction. One of them dropped their price by exactly 29 cents.
Wow.
And so I said, looks like somebody got their first shipment of tax-free gasoline. And then the people on social media just kind of got quiet after that. So
Yeah.
it was perfect timing for me up there, I know. Anyway, we've got a motion, a second. Is there any other discussion from the committee? If not, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries, and we thank the governor's floor leader for bringing this over to us. Representative McDonald, I was going to get you second here.
You okay if I have Department of Revenue representative with me?
If you're telling me that you need some help on it, you know, being a
He
House
makes me
member,
look good, so I just,
I'll certainly let him do that for you.
well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Today I bring you House Bill 162. As I heard you, we like taking care of Georgians. Today we want to take care of taxpaying Georgians. Basically, House Bill 162 is the surplus that Georgia Revenue Department has collected during the 21-22 tax season. Is we're wanting to give back to them. Same thing we did in the 2021 tax season for those that have paid their taxes. It mirrors that legislation. The only difference is we included in this one dependent taxpayers that they are now able to get a $250 tax rebate if they pay their 2021, 2022 tax. So we added that to it to help them, to show them that, you know, with this surplus, we want to help all Georgians. The key is you have to pay your taxes. And for this rebate, the sole the single payer taxes gets $250, head of household gets $375, and a joint filer will get $500. And this is surplus dollars.
In the example, say college student who is dependent on their parents' return, but they're paying taxes, they have an opportunity to get $250 as
Yes,
well.
sir.
And if I understand it right, if it's the same as last year, because that's a change.
That is
for
the
this
only
year.
change in this, sir.
So the rest of it would be if you pay $300 in taxes, you could get $300 back, but not the full $500. Is that correct? You gotta pay taxes.
You got to pay your taxes,
Yeah.
yes, sir.
So up. That's for 1 year only. We did it last year, and we're doing it again this year. It's a 1 year only program. So as long as you pay the taxes, you can get that amount up to $250, $375, or $500 for a family. With the one change you mentioned, that we'll let dependents that also pay taxes get some tax money
Yes, sir.
back as well. Any questions from the committee? Don't hear any. So, well, you got a question, okay?
Yes, sir. Just one quick question. Would you tell us what this means total to the great people of the state of Georgia, dollar-wise?
Well, I think it's a great gesture, not only from the governor bringing this before y'all. It's something that we're doing as a legislator. That it's $1 billion that'll be going back
That's
to
what I wanted to
the
say.
citizens of Georgia. That's their money. And you know, we all don't think about what $500 could be to a family, but that's a lot. You know, and when you look at the taxes that you pay, that's significant to be able to give back to those tax-paying Georgians.
All right, Senator Alvarado, our conference chair.
Yeah, I think I'm where Senator Albers is. I just want to make a motion to pass House Bill 162.
Well, we've got a motion here. We've got a second from Senator Estevez. Any other discussion on this item? And that was the second one in the I might not have said that. We're kind of in almost a reverse order here, but that was the second one in the folder if everybody's got all the information on it. Anyway, motion is second. Don't see any other discussion. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries, and
Thank you, Mr.
thank
Chairman,
you.
committee.
And
Georgia taxpayers say
who
thank you
is
also.
who is carrying this for you in the Senate over here? Have you got someone yet?
Yeah, I think it's that one right there, yes.
All right. Well, I was,
The mic from the coast.
you were doing really good till that point, but, all right, we appreciate you coming
Thank you,
here.
thank you, guys.
So, next we're going to hear, from Representative Smith, House Bill 311. And I believe there was a constitutional amendment that we passed last year, and this is enabling legislation. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. And first of all, I want to thank the Senate for the help last year. This is all in response to natural disasters, and thanks to the effort of the General Assembly as a whole, this ballot initiative, it was Amendment number 2, received 92% of the vote of the electorate. So there was strong identity and appreciation for what our bodies did together. This is the actual enacting bill. It's the general bill that goes with the constitutional amendment. One of the major factors in driving this bill is giving local governments the options every step of the way to apply some kind of tax relief to property that was damaged in a nationally declared disaster area. And so this bill has some definition changes, and because we're enacting something new, so it's a revision of a code section. I'll be happy to go through just highlights of that, Senator, if you wish. I'll be glad to. Okay.
Sorry, I didn't turn my mic back on. When there's been a disaster and somebody's property is destroyed in February, and yet we're taxing them in November for property that they really didn't get to use that whole year. It was something that wasn't in the law. That's my short version of it, I guess. So go ahead.
So if you don't mind, I'll defer to you to present the bill. Do I get to make the motion? No.
All right. I mean, does everybody understand the concept here? We let people, and it's actually up to the local government to do it. It's their choice.
Yes.
But it doesn't seem really fair that people are looking at a destroyed house all year saying, and now I got to pay taxes on it like I was able to use it all year.
And actually, the idea was, it wasn't an idea, it was a lament to me by a local government official. After all of our people who suffered these damages, at the end of the year, he looked at me and he said, and now we get to hit them with taxes on property they no longer have. And so this goes to the gratuity clause of the Constitution. So this is the will of the state. This is the will of local governments that we create this option for them. So very quickly, if you have the bill in front of you, in Section 1, we go to, it's just identifying that this is a new code section. On lines 13 through 16, there are definitions. It describes what a disaster area is and how it's located. On lines 17 through 25, it describes what is eligible damaged tax parcels or eligible destroyed tax parcels. So it goes into that detail because, again, we're creating this new code section. On lines 27 through 29, it talks about the who makes up these governing authorities. On lines 30 through 40, it describes the local managing director and emergency management director. And that was the term that the local governments there's one in every county, so that was the consistency for the state as a whole. So they, actually, I might be the author of this bill. The voice in this bill is that of our local governments because they're the ones who worked out the kinks and made this possible. On lines 41 through 44, it talks about the optional mechanism to grant temporary tax relief to buildings, and it mentioned the word buildings, for the disaster area which is either damaged or destroyed. Then we skip to lines 45 through 64, and it really lays out what your local emergency director's responsibilities are. And they can either they have to evaluate, prepare a report, which then goes to the tax commissioner. And then this process determines the properties. So once this is before the tax commissioners, upon the receipt of the report on lines 65 through 74, they have to adopt a resolution. And by doing that, they can begin the process. And so it's how they grant the relief that was now defined. And it talks, so there are options. It really depends upon the time of year when the natural disaster occurs. So the options to them in line 75, really all the way down to lines 90, it talks about the grant relief, it talks about the reduction of the millage rate, it talks about a flat dollar amount, and that's at which point in time the taxpayers have already received their taxes. And to me, the line that I think is poignant and to the point, these people have nothing. They probably have no records. They probably have nothing in which to enact this decision of local governments. So on lines 89 and 90, they automatically qualify to receive without need of application or action on their part. Lines 95, you can, it gives you the ability on how to claim your refund and its credits, redirection of funds, and it describes that. Again, this is open to the local governments. There's an appeal process, and then an interesting description, and I want to thank Lead Council over there for helping me with this. There was a desire on the part of people who were engaged in this, and we have already seen it in fact this year. There were tornadoes in January. And the actual resolution was passed in the general election. So the language is such that upon the approval of the governor or becoming law, this is lines 111 to 113, it shall be applicable to property tax assessments issued on or after April 1, 2023. So this captures what happened this year. And,
You know, if you keep going, you're gonna find something somebody doesn't like, so.
let's just hope and pray that they don't have a need for what I'm trying to explain.
Okay.
And the storm would already have hit and moved on by the time
I've already got a
finished my talk.
question.
I
It sounds
know.
like you went too long. Vice Chair
I'm
Albers.
used to explaining things to the House, so I can test you
But you
at
didn't
some
bring
point.
somebody up with you, so I'll compliment you on
I do have
that.
somebody, yes.
Well, with that in mind, thank you, Representative Smith, for bringing something that is so thoughtful and compassionate to people, and oftentimes it's their greatest time of crisis and need in their lives. And at the appropriate time, Mr. Chairman, I'd make a motion to pass.
Okay, I had one more question here, or maybe two now. Yeah, go ahead, Senator Orrock, I think. Oh, no, that's Senator Hodges.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Representative, I really appreciate this bill. As I live on the coast, and I understand what can happen, but I do have a question.
Yes, sir.
Is there any time limitation on this? I mean, if I live on the coast and I have a hurricane and I've got a very expensive house and it gets damaged or torn down, can I just sit on that lot and not pay taxes forever?
No, Senator, this applies only to the year of the disaster.
Okay.
And the background reason of that is the next year, our properties are assessed annually.
Right.
But the assessment is revealed or intact or directs what happens the following year. So the next year, you will have an assessment on that. And so this is only the year of the disaster.
Okay. So, and some disasters are so massive that it takes more than a year to build back.
Yes, it does.
So could a local government do this for 2 years if they wanted to?
No, it's only for
1
the
year,
year of the
okay.
disaster. And the reason behind that, So, and it's. Mhm. Uh,
So this would cover them for the current year.
Right. And it's totally optional on our local governments. You know, 159 counties, some might not be able to do anything. It is totally optional. And again, this language is the voice of our local governments, and they met several times to make this possible. So I'm grateful for that as well.
Senator Cowser.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So this will work not just for the hurricane that came through the southwest Georgia, but any other federally declared disasters in the future.
So we've already passed the constitutional amendment which said yes. The language limits it to the year of, but for example, the disasters that hit in January, I don't want to speak out of turn, but this could help that be enacted. Going forward, the next year, it's like you're dealing a whole new deck of cards. It's just only applicable to this year. Does that explain it?
And this will become effective upon the signature of the governor, so he could immediately
Yes.
help this go forward for disasters this year.
So the money, the funding for it, on your page 5 of top line 97, it sounds like this is funded by the local governments. It's not a pass-through of federal funding or state disaster relief.
Correct, and there's a lot of background reasons for that. If FEMA comes into it at the national level, this is at the local level, and what they can do. In my county, for example, 3 years ago, an F4 tornado wiped us out, and we got the FEMA for our government, but we didn't get it for individuals. This is in no way binding on any local government, but it was the will of the school board, the county, the cities, can we do the compassion part of it? Can we do something to help these people? And no one entity in local governments is required to match another. It's totally optional. They don't have to do anything. But if they have the tax base, and here's what brought this about anyway, they wanted to reduce the millage rate on the ones that were suffered through the natural disaster. They couldn't. They had to do the millage rate for everybody. Therefore, they were giving up the very money they needed to be able to have the compassion for these others. So, thank you.
Yeah, again, county money, permissive only, it's up to them, but they just couldn't even do it before under the law. One more question, I know Senator Albers is ready to make a motion. Senator Estevez.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's more of a observation, Representative. I appreciate the fact that there's transparency and good government provisions in here, because in the resolution there has to be a transparency in the property value, how much is being suspended, and the method
Yes.
by which that's distributed, which is good, because to the extent of the county commission wants to do this, all taxpayers will have visibility into what is exactly is happening, what that total value is.
Yes, that's correct.
All right, Senator Albers, you had a motion?
Motion to pass House Bill 311.
Do we have a second? Second from Senator Hodges. Any other discussion? Not seeing any. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None. And we will try to get this out as quickly as possible to the governor so that we
Thank
can let the opportunity for relief begin.
Thank you, and if that does in fact occur,
And who is your Senate sponsor?
Senator Brass, we share the county that was damaged.
Well, he may can
Well,
get
he
it-
might get it
he
out of
might get out of
rules,
rules
was the
pretty
whole
quick.
idea.
I don't know. We'll see.
Thank you,
All right.
senators, for your time.
Thank you. All right, and then the last bill of the day from Representative Sands, if you want to come forward. House Bill 482.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. House Bill 482 was a Department of Revenue initiated bill. It is a clarification on what the courts have interpreted the quality jobs tax credit to be. At this point, because of a Fulton County decision, the current law as it stands would qualify for-profit and nonprofit businesses, including as well government agencies who would qualify in terms of the job increases. This bill seeks to clarify that it would be for corporate income tax paying organizations only, so for-profit organizations. The bill the law as it stands would cost the state an additional $25 million per year. So this would seek to clarify again that it'd be for those who we tax corporate tax. For nonprofit entities, we already give a 0% corporate tax, which is arguably the benefit of that nonprofit status. We have the Commissioner of the Department of Revenue here who could probably give you a more detailed description of the bill if you would like.
Sure, if you want to go ahead with us, and I think this is your second time being commissioner, isn't it? Or is it?
Yes, sir. Finally had enough practice to where I'm the real commissioner.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and members of the committee for the opportunity to speak on House Bill 482. And thank you to Chairman Sens for carrying this bill and Chairman Albers for carrying this bill. As we discuss House Bill 482, I'd like to summarize it briefly, provide some legislative background, and discuss cost to the state. The Quality Jobs Tax Credit provides more of a credit than the regular jobs tax credit, has a higher threshold. You have to have 50 eligible jobs, and they have to pay a certain percentage of the average county wage. Now, what this bill would do is clarify how nonprofits can claim this credit. If a nonprofit has unrelated business income, that's a for-profit operation within the nonprofit, then the nonprofit can claim the credit for the jobs that support that for-profit operation. However, they cannot claim the credit for jobs tied to the nonprofit operations. This bill follows a decision by the Fulton County Superior Court, I think as you've heard, where the court, in our view, erroneously ruled that any taxpayer who files any tax return with the state may receive the Quality Jobs Tax Credit. And in truth, it would exclude no entity from the credit. The unintended consequence of the decision is that tax professionals and attorneys are approaching nonprofits to inform them that they can take advantage of this perceived loophole. Regarding legislative intent, the legislature received a fiscal note in 2009 for the QJTC. The fiscal note did not include nonprofits or tax-exempt organizations in its calculation. The fiscal note only accounted for business enterprises. Additionally, several individuals involved with the bill when it passed in 2009 have told the department that nonprofits receiving the credit and applying it against payroll withholding was never envisioned. When Governor Perdue announced this program, his press release explicitly stated that the credit was to be utilized by companies and businesses. There was no mention of tax-exempt nonprofits. As I mentioned, the department has interpreted the bill consistently since 2009. We were asked from time to time whether nonprofits could qualify, and we explained that the for-profit part of their operations, if they had any, could qualify. And it wasn't until 8 years later in 2017 that we got some pushback, and in fact, a nonprofit asked for a letter ruling. In the letter ruling, we explained our support, and we put forth that same consistent position. That letter ruling was then redacted and has been published on the department's website since October 2017. Now, the department currently has between 100 and 200 million in filed and anticipated refund claims from nonprofits. The nonprofits who filed these claims have not relied on this 100 to 200 million in claims, because that's all they are, is claims. And they do not know how much, if any of those claims are worth. With 83 nonprofit hospitals in Georgia and over 90,000 nonprofits of any type, we've had some estimates that, over a range of years, the cost for the nonprofits alone could be several hundred million, and I think you've heard 25 million per year. Now, the income tax break that nonprofits received is the fact that they're tax exempt, and so they keep what would have been those tax revenues to invest in staffing, facilities, and community benefits. The General Assembly has also seen fit to pass the rural hospital credit to support rural hospitals. For other nonprofits, the law enforcement organization credit, foster child credit, the qualified education credit. So there are other ways that the General Assembly has seen fit to aid and assist nonprofits. Mr. Chairman, thank you for the opportunity to speak on this bill, and I'm happy to take any questions.
All right. Yeah, let me talk for just a second on this, because we passed out in the appropriations a property tax credit that was $500, but you got to pay property taxes, and then the one that was just brought by the representative of an income tax credit, you got to pay income taxes. So this is a little bit different, and I also probably need to say I work for a nonprofit indirectly, and understand that. But I think we've worked in the Department of Community Health and the Georgia Hospital Association and some others to improve their funding this year through the direct pay program, which I think most people have been briefed on that by now. That was going on for a number of years. Started in Arizona and kind of modeled what they did. That will bring in, I think, about $1.7 billion into the hospitals this year, additional money, which is great because we have hospitals struggling. But I guess I'm struggling a little bit with getting a credit when you don't actually file a corporate income tax on it. So that's what I've got. I've only heard from, and actually in passing, from one person with the hospital association. And I didn't see anybody signed up today, but I see a whole lot of people here that are part of that organization. I know them well. They're my friends, and we work on a lot of stuff. So I didn't know if there was anybody that was wanting to speak on it that didn't sign up.
I would add that the Chamber of Commerce and the Hospital Association after we did a rule substitute modifying the preamble of the legislation, moved to neutral on the legislation on crossover day.
Okay. All right. Any discussion among the members here? Okay, Senator Hodges.
Just one simple question. Bill says it would be applicable on signing for taxable years beginning or after January 1st, 2023, and you said there were 100 to 100 to 200 million dollars in claims. I guess those are gone. I mean, we'll lose those claims. No?
No, sir. Those claims are for years prior to 2023, and so they're still sitting before the department.
So how will they be affected by this bill?
They will not be affected by this bill, so they'll be judged in light of the way the language was previously.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
sorry, turn this back on here. Again, to clarify this, I think the original legislation, there was a potential for clawback on this, and if I'm understanding right in this legislation, we do have I think the chairman of Ways and Means, I believe, sitting there too, so he can probably even attest, but I think the way y'all did it, it wouldn't go retroactive at all. Am I correct in that, or?
The original legislation had language about legislative intent, which I believe had some concern about issues with pending litigation from the Hospital Association, which was taken out because of their concern for that.
Okay. All right. Any other questions from anybody? I'm not seeing any. Senator Albers?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd motion we do pass House Bill 482.
We've got a motion and a second. Any other discussion? I could do a hand vote if we need to on this. Okay.
Mr. Chair, you may be able to clarify this. Some numbers have been thrown around, but what's the projected impact of this language change on the
20 million.
state's finances?
25 million per year.
All right. We've got a motion from Senator Albers and I think a second from Senator Hickman. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries.
Thank you.
This meeting adjourned. And who is your, oh no, you already said your sponsor was Senator Albers, okay.